Hello guys, Halfmoon here for my full review over one of the most talked about knives online. This is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. I received it for Christmas and I already did an initial impression video, and I recommend you to check it out before watching this one. So been carrying this little guy and using it a lot since Christmas. And I gotta say, it is absolutely excellent. So in this video I will not compare this knife with the Para 1 for two reasons. First, I didn't like the Para 1 and therefore never get one. And the second reason is because there's a ton of very good videos comparing the two generations. So, but I will sometimes compare this guy with the Melee here as a reference. So I still have the shiny clip for now, but I've ordered a black one directly from Spyderco, and I should be delivered pretty soon. So I'm gonna change it. But I gotta say, this clip is excellent. Tip down carry, which is my preferred way. Clip retention to the pocket is good, but however it's not going to ruin your pocket. The design is simpler and, in my opinion, aesthetically more pleasing than the one on the military. Maybe would have been a tiny bit cooler if it was kind of curved like this one. This one is straight. But it's a tiny detail, you know, and it's not going to change anything to the function. The blade is awesome. CPM S30V. Big fan, holds a very good edge and is relatively easy to sharpen. And here I'm talking about Spyderco's S30V. Clearly one of my favorite steels, I gotta say. Blade shape is excellent, with a good belly, finger choil here, some very purposeful thumb ramp. The blades start off with a good thickness. Yeah, this way. So it's pretty thick at the beginning, and like 3 or 4 millimeters, I'd say, and then goes progressively thinner to end up with a very fine tip. And some people might call it a flaw for stupid reasons, in my opinion, and saying that the tip is gonna be too fragile. I find it very useful, you know, to have a kind of nil point tip here, and I don't like blades with a fat tip. For example, this one, the SMG here. Totally useless for folder, in my opinion, and again, I think it's done for silly reasons. Full flat grind, it's very thin and makes this knife an awesome slicer. And as usual with Spidey, it was scalper sharp out of box, and the grind is totally perfect, so excellent. Just gonna drink a bit of water here for the pose. Okay, what else? Yeah, the handle, very good, extremely comfortable. When I choke up, and when I don't, I still have some room for my hand on the handle, and my fingers are kind of locked in place by these two parts here and here, so it is excellent. As you can see, there is no back spacer, just to compare, and I really thought it was gonna be a big deal when you grip, you know, and push very hard on something. Honestly, it's not. Everything is very smooth, no sharp corner, no hot spot. It's a little bit less comfortable than the Melee, I gotta say, when you push very hard on something, because of this lack of spacer on the Para 2, in my opinion. But really not a big deal, and truth be told, this beast is so sharp that you don't really have to push very hard on the handle anyway. The oversized lanyard hole, I personally don't really care because I almost never use it, but it's a great idea, you know, great feature for those who like it. So the screws, okay, So I know there's a totally insane debate going on for years about the Milli and the paramilitary screws, okay, just a comparison here, for totally ridiculous reasons, in my opinion. So I'm gonna give my personal opinion about it. A lot of people, their main complaint about the Milli and the Para 1 was the size of the screws, okay? You know, the screws are too small, this construction is not solid enough, I don't want the handle to break if I have to use my knife harder, you know, all that kind of shit you hear. Like I said, totally ridiculous in my opinion. This whole screw debate is a total nonsense. The military is now available for more than 10 years. Don't quote me on that, but I think the first release date was in '96, and I never heard anybody complaining on the forums or on YouTube about some screws breaking while using the knife. So, you know, people complain about the solidity of the handle, but anybody already had a problem with the handle, so this is the first nonsense to me. Second one is basic physics. If you really want to break the screws, it's not by pushing really hard like that, okay? Like imagine you're like cutting something very hard and you gotta push very hard. You're not gonna break it this way. In this case, if you push hard like that, the force is actually distributed in the whole handle. So there is no particular shear stress, you know, that could theoretically cause the breaking of one or more screws. If you really want to break the screws of a Milli, you gotta put a lateral stress, you know, by you stab the blade into a hard material, for example, and then you're pushing like this on the side. In this case, I can admit that the Milli screws would certainly break a little easier than if you're doing that with, let's say, an SMG that has much bigger screws, truth be told. Another way would be some very intense chopping work. Okay, maybe the shock waves could damage the screws, and this is questionable. But obviously, I just don't see any reason at all to chop wood or to make a hard prying task with a military or basically any other folding knife. Okay, it may be relevant for testing purposes. Okay. But in real life, if you want to pry things open, I mean, use a fucking pry bar, you know. But don't just whine saying that the screws are fragile or that kind of shit. It's totally ridiculous. Now, the point where I can admit that the screws of the Para 2 are an improvement over the current military and the previous paramilitary is if you want to take your knife apart, the screws won't strip as easily because the depression here, I don't know, yeah, you can see it. The depression here where you're gonna put the screwdriver is designed bigger and stronger. So the new screws are an improvement for the maintenance, okay? Now for the function, I mean, just be realistic for a second and you'll notice that somehow it's irrelevant. So yeah, I'm a little out of the initial subject right now, so let's go back to the locking mechanism. Compression lock. Okay, so it is my first compression lock ever, so I was very interested and maybe a bit skeptical about this lock. Like, why would Spyderco use that lock instead of a regular liner lock that everybody knows how to manipulate? You know, why make complicated when you can make simple? And actually this lock turned out to be a big and very positive surprise, I gotta say, which even makes me say that this is probably my favorite locking mechanism ever. What I gotta say is that I like my pivot to be pretty tight, okay? Now, a liner lock or a frame lock, okay, let's take the SMG for example. It's very good for me because I can tighten the pivot exactly the way I want to have precise tightness when I'm opening it, okay? So that's cool for me. But when I want to close it, you gotta do a 2 times motion, okay? So it's 1 and then you gotta remove your thumb and it's 2, okay? So again, the second example that I want to show you is the axis lock. I can open and close it in only 1 motion, but the con of that is that I gotta tighten down the pivot in order to make it work properly. Here with the compression lock, I can tighten the pivot according to my preference and in the meantime close it in 1 motion. And again, it is a small detail, but it's the addition of small details that makes this knife exceptional, and it's really fun to play with. Okay, if you're watching TV and you're like opening and closing it, believe me, it's a lot of fun. Now the price on this, it's a present, so I don't have the exact price, but it's about 90 euros including shipping. You know, I'm really picky with my knives, I gotta say, and it's actually the first time that I don't have anything to reproach. Fit and finish is excellent, blade centering, perfect. All of its features are just phenomenal, you know, comfort, steel, lock, everything is just outstanding with this knife. And I gotta say, it is quite perfect. And all that for 75 or 80 euros, definitely one of the best values out there. And if you don't already have one, you definitely gotta get one. I mean, it is an absolute fantastic product. Unbeatable, really, unbeatable. Now, the only reason why I still consider the military as my all-time favorite is because it's a tiny bit more comfortable, and somehow I find that the bigger blade is actually more useful, okay, but that's just my opinion. So go get a pair too, it's awesome. Thank you guys for watching, and questions, comments, concerns are welcome. Bye.